Welcome, my dear Svrn family. Times are dire. Action from true desire is what united sovereigns admire. I wrote this over the last 10 days, and I have yet to read it all the way through once yet, so I'm truly hoping this only takes 75 minutes. The opening intention for the next hour or so of our life is to drop deeply into receiving this dire desire of what I do admire in stories of this unique journey and this grand vision of our new earth order forming within all of us, awakening to new ancient ways of being men and women here together. As you have been chosen to experience this transmission, I trust that you too are experiencing higher states of consciousness than most humans in this area. This ascended perception has allowed us the grace to see this situation we have been presented truthfully, stepping out of the way of this obvious New World Order timeline of mass cultural genocide, attempting to implement totally centralized control systems of everything on Earth, coming to a finishing point in their grand evil creation of enslaving everyone to hell on Earth, as they've been planning for many centuries and attempting over and over countless times throughout their story. I have been graced with many visions in relation to the grand plan the elites wish for and God's plan that will actually be the one to play out. I will explain why their agenda can't and won't work for much longer, and why it is important we create safe spaces where we can live as we truly wish, in happy modes of healing and empowering ourselves and our community sustainably, and ever expanding our joyful bubble of healing and empowerment for a legacy of blessed sovereignty. As an important operative in the creation of New Earth, the visions of any negative or pessimistic potentials need to be let go of from the minds of those awakening. It all needs to be forgiven and forgotten if we wish to create truth. From that clear place of true enlightenment, our imagination is obviously the ultimate source of creation. Imagining and witnessing negativity is obviously not a worthy operation for the truest creation of New Earth. However, I do believe that for a time and a part of our awakening process, it is important to come to an understanding of the depth of the situation and the collective story that we find ourselves in. Just as anger is one step in the grieving process, our dissonant feelings of our understandings provide us with one step along the many stages of awakening to self-realization. As we come to awaken to ever greater realities, we naturally find it unimportant to keep up with their agenda, as we are fascinated with inspiration to create our own agendas within communal and collective agendas. So let's be aware, feel our feelings, acknowledge where we are at in our ability to come to peace with their agenda and our ability to imagine our own highest agendas. So, as we come to remember everything is always love, their New World Order agenda won't work as they wish. It is obviously working to some extent at the moment though, and is working quite well in the Winnipeg area here, seemingly. The trauma that is going to be delivered to mainstream society over the coming years from the vaccines, the lockdowns, the masks, and the fear-mongering propaganda, which is going to turn into some kind of mass spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical sickness in some kind of COVAX syndromes and lockdown societies operating communist social credit systems. It's possible. It's dark, and it's needed, whatever that darkness is for the awakening. It's needed, so needed. So this could be a traumatizing few years for many people stuck in the system, especially to those who are asleep and not able to process their emotions in healthy ways, and they're just going along with it. Just considering the indirect trauma of people who aren't injured themselves, but are watching other people they love and know become injured is going to be an ever-mounting burden. Very soon, their current systems are going to be intentionally collapsed for a short time, so they can try to implement more radically centralized systems of colonization. These people who are prone to being traumatized will not be fun or healthy to be around. If you think these Karens are cranky now, wait till they're all chipped up. Woo! This whole event of attempting a worldwide centralization of systems of colonization are going to be far more intense than our grandparents experienced and our great-grandparents experienced in the Great Depression. Just like the Great Depression was an elite-induced event with the intention of bringing in the Fed and the World Banking birth certificate debt system that ties the entire world into a legal fiction of maritime commerce law that is intentionally deceptive, it's happening again. And their plan has worked quite well for most every country in the world as it's on the Fed fiat currency. Cities in our area are currently full of sleeping sheeple, useless eaters as they call them. They're just unconsciously going along with the narrative and therefore being slowly poisoned. If we don't want to be indirectly poisoned, we have to be careful about how we interact with these sleeple and these hot zones of totalitarian control that are going to be full of them for the next little while. Over the coming years, as the winds of evolution blow through us, our sins and our fears are going to come to the surface and be burned in our evolution, or to burn us in the unconsciously upset fires of hell. We have the choice. Quite directly, those people who continue in sin now, regardless of the reason, will be swept from this plane of reality, as I will explain later on in this transmission. This is a natural cleansing process we're in now. The best way is to allow the sin to play out naturally, all by itself, and to put up healthy boundaries so as to interact with the dying world of sin in safe ways. Everyone's going to wake up with or without our interference. So we may as well focus on those people we really love and go about making a good life with each other in a good place. In doing so, inspiring everyone else to live a good life from our own safe bubble of superconscious sovereignty. How this apocalypse revelation plays out in the world is a great mystery, tickling our curiosity, and we are looking forward to witnessing the unfolding of, though so long as we don't get obsessed with the unfortunate public show, as the death of the old way is truly unimportant and obviously energetically harmful to witness from our New Earth perspective. Of course, we can always justify our focuses, though we must be careful of our intention behind our focus. The simple question, why, drives worlds. And we are in a moment of massive change in our collective why. This is a grand moment where, thanks to the hyperbolic inflation of fear present in our world, our personal fear-based paradigms are coming to the surface of our awareness to finally pass into death. And using our ashed essentials of unconditional love, we may be reborn into faith-based paradigms of our own imagining. The potential of living in a new paradigm is available now for the most mature of us in moments that are sometimes spectacularly long, like this one right now. It feels so good. We are the pioneers of New Earth as we are co-creating the new paradigm within our faithful imagination. Our old patterns are dissolving, and thanks to elite agendas and a mass spiritual awakening, the ability to create anew in this emptying space of potential opportunity is so very healing, and is drawing up our sins and fears to be forgiven and loved so that we can take action on healing and empowering ourselves to ascend into personally self-realized beings who experience sustainable waves of joy and bliss and wish to congregate with other self-realized beings to mature ourselves and our society into intelligently enlightened cultures that experience collective joy and bliss as a sustainably intrinsic aspect of our human life. Oh yeah. Therefore, if we are spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, and legally balanced and living among others who are also highly self-realized and balanced in their claim of responsibility, we are going to be fine. In fact, more than fine, we're going to be better than ever in ways we don't yet have faith enough to imagine just how awesome, and blissful life can be, as we are still in our infancy of ascending into the New Earth Order. This is a creative New Earth Order community building adventure. The potential realities within congregations intentionally connected to the highest source of faith and intentionally supporting each other's imagination to evolve into radiant, vibrant vibrations in resonant expressions is amazing. And as I'm speaking this into existence, a gift from Zoom. Running out of time, we've removed the 40-minute time limit on your group meeting. Hey, gifts from the universe. And that's what happens when we drop into our power and trust that we are being supported, that God is supporting us, that our higher selves are supporting us, that our friends and family are supporting us. I'm supporting you. I love it. Forgot that I waxed myself here. Through this New Earth Order community building experience, I imagine attracting a small group of powerful men and women who are creatively visionary and like-minded to me. I imagine many powerfully intimate groups will be inspired into creation. We all need our own private trust in a group of people who you would take a bullet for, and they would for you too. These may be called sovereign pods, or freedom cells, or families. When the perfect people come together and harmonize their visions, missions, and intentions under God's jurisdiction, they may create a cooperative communal living and business agreement that is steadily planned and built over many years to be a sustainable cultural legacy of sovereignty. And we're all perfect. As an intentional community building project, we can let the small-minded visions of the old world go, so we can creatively claim the grand godly visions of our sovereignty, making our own constitutions that help remind us of the natural laws in the universe, aligning with our higher missions, enhancing our powerful imaginations to build the truest, most powerful new earth possible. I know who I am, and I've got a piece of the grand awakening plan, and maybe you do too. I know we can build this together and have a visionary blast doing it. Woo! All right, I hope everyone's enjoying this. That was the end of the first section there, the opening intention. And here we are into story time. Who am I? Welcome to an autobiographical self-edification for myself, coming into the role of sovereign community leader. From this lifetime's history through now and intentionally visionary into all coming nows. On the chilly morning of December 7th, 1991, I was born through a woman born to the name Diane Rubin by the way of cesarean section. My father was born to the name Ronald Minion, and therefore I was named Stephen L. Minion. My mother unconsciously signed her natural lawful rights to ownership and authority of me over to the Corporation of Canada through the central banking birth certificate system. Thanks, Ma. She didn't know. For the first few months of my life, we lived on Home Street near Portage. Though after many break-ins, we moved to a safe neighborhood in Charleswood, where I grew up in a rural feeling environment with fields and forests in the backyard. At the same time of my birth, my father purchased the outdoors business he still owns, and at the time had been working at the previous range, which was called Silver Arrow, for some years prior, and he called his version of the business Heights Archery, after the Silver Heights shopping center that it resides in. Interesting Winnipeg historical fact, way back in 1951, Silver Heights Mall was the first strip mall built in Winnipeg. The basement business is definitely Winnipeg famous for being one of two long-standing archery ranges in the city, though it started off as a bowling alley, actually. I love my dad very much, and he taught me dedicated work ethics and some good values, though he has been a powerful example of negative inspiration for how not to live life joyfully and peacefully in public and in private. Unfortunately, he's deeply asleep, and as a small business owner, is following the narrative closely and seriously, seemingly negatively affected by all this New World Order fear stuff. Hearing my shaking voice, all of it's heavy. So I have healthy boundaries in place so as to not be in contact with him at the moment. My parents' relationship is another negative inspiration, unfortunately. Long ago, I would often think, I never want to be like them. I never want to be like them. I never want to be like them. And sure enough, I manifested a relationship that woke me up to my unconscious family patterns in just that way. Though that's later in the timeline. My parents are still together in an awkward, uncomfortable, codependent relationship that they will likely go to their death in. My mother is a very different personality to my dad, and I have a much deeper bond with her, and can imagine I will stay in a sustainable, loving connection with her till death. It's beautiful. Those kinds of lifelong, sustainable connections are rare, especially these days. So let's cherish those. Regardless of perspective and choice, some of these relationships can be bonded forever in love. As a babe, she fed me half and half formula and breast milk, listening to all society's advice, and got me all my vaccines on schedule and put me into the school system where I was trained into answering prepared questions on a predetermined curriculum and kept getting jabbed and didn't like any of it until one day in grade 5, I witnessed a classmate faint after receiving the shot and then got a vaccine exemption form and their parents signed it. And they confirmed they won't need to take any more shots. And a light bulb went off in my head. So I went into the next vaccine clinic with a plan and fainted, just like I had seen right after the shot. And I got extra cookies and juice and care and the exemption form. Before I knew anything about the poisons in the vaccines, all I knew was it always made me feel terrible, and I never wanted to feel that way. I always said I would just rather get sick. Before I really woke up, I was traveling to Israel, and it was around the time when I was 1920, and I was told I needed to take a shot to travel. I tried to refuse, though I ended up being pressured into it by the doctor, and I allowed that to happen. So I have been successfully vaccine-free for about 10 years. Before awakening, I had a very low self-esteem, using my skills and relationships to fulfill the void of love in my ego. As an overachiever, I was the teacher's pet type, getting into higher level academics as an international baccalaureate student and being the top athlete in most every sport I committed to. Otherwise, I felt very socially awkward and unable to relate comfortably with others, regularly relating in small social circles of people who were on the outskirts of the popular cliques. Within these small circles, sex was clearly a major rite of passage, and I felt lonely in others' accusation of my virginity. I came out of high school with honors and followed my father's wishes to go to university and spent a year in the Faculty of Engineering before being horrified with the way they educated, as well as the vocation I would live the rest of my life in, behind a programmed computer screen. I always loved taking things apart and building them better, or making new inventions altogether. So I dropped out of school and got into the creative trade of construction. Within a few years, I was a master tile setter and loved setting custom tile mosaics. I also learned many other trades and became a very handy contractor. In 2012, when I was 21, I met the first woman who I fell deeply in love with and awoke to the ecstasy of romantic love. For the first time in my life, I felt happiness and aliveness and an exuberance for just being alive. She empowered me enough to leave my job with an abusive boss and become self-employed, which was much more enjoyable. Over the course of our 3 years together, our personal traumas crept in to our once ripe fruit of a loving relationship and began to rot our lusty love from the inside out as my nightmares became reality. My prayer to not end up like my parents allowed I experience unconsciously playing out my parents' relationship in a very real way that I did not realize I was doing in the moment. It ended up being an intensely awakening breakup as she accused me of serious allegations, which had me questioning whether I was a good person or not, and was forced to look at my unconscious personal shame and lack of self-love that was hurting other people, especially those who I loved most. From that point on, I was on a mission of awakening and achieving personal forgiveness, and also from her as well, as learning unconditional love and how to apply spiritual practices in everyday life. Quickly, I have learned the ways of love unconditionally. From 2016 to 2018, I dropped out of the matrix and went on a journey of self-realization, driving across Canada, living in my van, traveling to different communities across the nation. I learned the meaning of my birth name, Stephen L. Minion, is the crowned one, shepherd of the self-enslaved. Shortly thereafter, I channeled my higher name, Nazaire Rigor Dominion. Nazaire is Hebrew for Stephen, and being that my mother is one of the 12 tribes of Israel, Reuben, it was a perfect realization that I met Nazaire at the Yellow Deli at that time, and he told me his name, and that we actually have the same name, and that they mean the same thing too. Nazaire means the crowned one as well, though Stephen is as if I am crowned by a golden crown, whereas Nazaire is as if I am crowned by my own hair. Right around that time, I channeled the name Rigor through an internal meditative experience. I was driving and a booming voice came through, Rigor, and whoa, what's that? It's your name. And okay, thank you, Rigor. And I soon learned Rigor means rigorous in Latin. To go to any length to accomplish something rigorous. That's right. And I claim that. Shortly thereafter, I had a new friend in my van, and he saw I was living in it and exclaimed, "Van Dominion!" And there it was. I thanked him for expressing that and wished him well, and we parted ways, and I had my higher name, Nazaire Rigor Dominion. And it just made me happy to realize it, realize myself, realize my higher self. It still does. That was 2017. And it wouldn't be until 2020 that I would have the courage and grounds enough to take my chosen name publicly and ask my friends and family in the world to call me Naz. In 2018, I was energetically ascending very quickly. After I found my name, the channels opened up and it was beautiful. Thank you, Kathy. In 2018, I was energetically ascending very quickly without any support systems or family support, and many of my relationships blew up as I spiritually crashed into a dark night of a year-long of suicidal depression. The whole time, I was held in the clutches of a sociopathic narcissist who was a member of the community I was participating in, who presented himself as a white knight and manipulated me into staying in his control for almost a year. His devious intentions helped drive me down to a very dark place in myself as he projected all kinds of horrendous ideas onto me and wished hell upon my life, as it all intensified to the point where I didn't know what to do and I was afraid he was sharing the rumors and lies to the whole community, and I didn't know what to do, and I was confused and lost and depressed, and so I consciously made the decision to run away and attempt to suicide in an act of asphyxiating myself in the spring of 2019. And through that process of being out in the bush for 3 weeks, trying to gain the courage to do it, I remembered that it doesn't matter. That even if one person spoke the worst things into existence about me, regardless of whether they were real or not, it doesn't matter, because I know my reality. And I thought of my mom, and I thought of all my friends and family. I thought, kill them, you know? And then I woke up and asked for help, real help, and came back. Beautiful, beautiful time, beautiful time. It was an intense reconnection and grounding experience. Over the next summer, I regrounded and came back to my awakening through a wholly new lens. I planted a giant garden in my childhood home garden, now owned by my sister, loved up by my birth family, reintegrated back into my communities, and I have done so much good emotional work since. And proof of that is that I built an Earthship. I built Earthship Sophia at Myriad Eco Village with my white knight that next summer that I came back. And I tried to talk about it, but it's hard to talk about it with him. And it was okay. We just swept under the rug and got along, and it was all good. And we're now actually dealing with it, and it's all coming out. So that's in process. That's a big process. In the fall of 2019, I fell in passionate romantic love once again for the first time since my first love awoke me in so many ways, and I was creatively reignited as I began wanting to present my intuitive channels through creative expressions at open mics, meditations, ceremonies, and special events. Our love burned bright and short as I was inspired onto the next leg of my spiritual journey, which led to the New Year's 2020 Winnipeg World Peace Vision. Days before the ball dropped on 2020, the year that we would awaken to see the world very clearly, I experienced a very powerful vision that Winnipeg is the epicenter of a fast-coming awakening of world peace. The vision contained Winnipeg and the surrounding area being a sustainable entity that acted in harmonious union like a giant, beautiful cooperative between all nations and all corporations. The obvious nature that Winnipeg is the geographical heart of the continent became evidently clear, and the size, history, and nature of this city makes it a prime location to experiment with world peace. I envisioned all reserves in Manitoba being healing retreats and resorts. I envisioned living by vows rather than laws. I envisioned creating passionate, genius, super conscious humans through open source, autodidact style, self-directed learning. Being a builder, I envisioned rich details of living in extremely intentionally made, geometrically harmonic spaces that sound amazing, are creatively dynamic and vibrate like living resonators of biomagnetic energy, and are sustainably net zero, naturally by design. I envisioned everyone is happy and in love, and there are so many tight-knit communities all working together towards creating a super cool life. And we overtake the cities and turn them back into habitable environments where life can actually thrive with higher paradigm technologies providing all the energy we need to power our newfangled creations. The law building is being used to solve conflicts peacefully under God's jurisdiction by judges who are like spiritual saint monks, and dangerous offenders are persuaded into healing therapy. One of the most powerful points of the vision was taking back the legislative building and turning it into a giant community center and co-creative self-governance space. This might just be my ego, though I saw myself in a position of political power in the ledge. It came through like a premiere, though the title was different and the role was very different, and the structure that it governs is also very different. I felt like I was a main influence of inspiring many people to know their own highest way in life and to self-govern themselves. I imagined the entire place as polished to the nines and sparkling with sonic resonance. I witnessed a more mature version of myself, making giant ceremony in the building and thousands of people filled in the space, and the entire space is vibrating with our song and prayer. And this is a regular practice. We come together to harmonize our energies, to act in concert together out in the world. The way we think and see the world is so different that the social interactions seen in the visions are almost surreal. The ease with which we flow into the unified fields of ecstatic expression is delicious to remember. The telepathic and holographic nature of our shared reality being on the forefront of our collective awareness will change the way we live drastically. And this is what I'm seeing and feeling in my visions. My visions, our visions, the visions, these visions, visions. I was changed from that point on. And when pandemonium hit reality a few months later, I was surprised that I felt called to jump to a place of leadership so quickly. In February of 2020, I got out of the country to MC a yoga music festival at an ashram in the jungle of Belize. There, I upgraded my own personal expression by finding creative alter egos that are musically inspired. I know who I am. I'm a mystery man with many beautiful, inspiring sides to my super consciously evolving personality. Oh yeah. Initially, when the pandemic hit, the news clearly, as I came home, Initially, when the pandemic hit the news clearly as I came home from Belize, I believed it was true for a week. And I was staying with my parents at the time, and they were coming back from their own trip and needed to quarantine. And so I went to stay with that white knight friend of mine who is already deep into the rabbit hole. And initially I was like, oh, goodness, please no. I've done this conspiracy theory thing. I just don't want to do it now. I'm like, good now. I'm okay. Thank you. And a week went by and I absorbed it, and a little more and a little more, and eventually came to the grips with, wow, this is actually real. And I experienced a week-long panic attack before coming to the realization of Winnipeg Freedom March and calling on world peace to manifest in Winnipeg. Taking action eased my everything. Taking action empowered me. It started super small, even small actions, anything, so empowering. It started with Holly and I just giving a small speech at City Hall and walking to the ledge and then to the Human Rights Museum and back. By the third week, there was a rally at the ledge by Dr. Jerry Bohemier, and we angrily marched around the front of the building together, and I was just happy to see others awakening. I was sad to see the anger, but I was very hopeful. Many weeks after I met other rallies in progress and was met by many people and participated in many other rallies and played MC at times. It was fun. though it was challenging. The opening intention and prayer of Winnipeg Freedom March developed into a poetic speech that became a song and then a music video. All the words shared are very intentional. I was also experiencing visions of becoming mayor of Winnipeg, so I turned the end of the song into a fun little political campaign chat. Vote for King Naz. They got the pizzazz to kick government ass and bring in love to all of us. So we're gonna drop out of my screen here right now, and we're gonna drop into the video. Empowering us to create a monument called Human Peace on Earth in Love. Let's mind, heart, sacral march. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So sustainable peace can be our art. How? Vote for King Naz. Here we go. For Winnipeg, I march, march, march to the beat of my heart, heart, heart. To know united freedom as a start. So sustainable peace can be our art. Because Canada is Earth's peaceful pollinator. Manitoba means the seat of the creator. We're friendly in multicultural ease. Winnipeg's the birthplace of peace. I was inspired by a worldwide lockdown. I awoke hard as we were shut down. Freedom March Winnipeg woke here. It's a Sunday walk, world peace prayer. I was inspired by intuitions of peace here now. I realize happy love is our truest now. Unconditional love's our utopian how. I'm inspiring myself to show us how. Though many aware, fear coming dystopia. No worries, that's simply a myopia. Orwell's 1984 is only science fiction, though CGI is a surveillance infliction. Unfortunately, Canada's global information conspiracy is an evil, privatized information piracy, using army-grade psychological war, washing citizens' minds in hate's tar. So don't fear, or else manifest your hell. We receive what we believe after all. Love and peace ring forever as a bell. We good guys always win in the end. Pain and suffering is our teaching mend. For real, separation's not real. One-sided duality, connected by time and space for infinity. This hatred and war is our ego schism. True love sees the Tao beyond dualism. Real unconditional love even loves on hate, inviting it into heaven's harmonic gate, watering hell's painfully burning state. Growing in unity as one being innate. Oh yeah! Looking up, I see myself in the stars. Looking down, I am my wounded scars. Laws, judges, and jails serve repression. All we need is love's true expression. Unfortunately, our current government is so tuned out. They're run like businesses throughout. Financial quarters manipulate taxpayers. Politicized lies in propagandized layers. Because royal oligarchs unconsciously spew insecurity, rightly ruling their self and slavery securely. Don't fight illegibly unintelligible legalese. Release anger and upset for oligarch sleaze. Because they need our loving forgiveness the most, we will play a new game where we boast our heartfelt intentions in true happiness, sharing all our passions in togetherness. I'm in love, baby. I'm in love, baby. Loving all, I play out my highest times, ascending my story and harmonizing rhymes. I saw peaceful visions and I'm holding back. I express transcendence of love's true mass. Oh yeah. Humanity's mission is an ecstatic experience. Living come presently of creative reverence. We all know connection is our epiphany. All aligning in golden rule of empathy. Oh yeah. My happiness relies on your happiness. Empathy, telepathy, and love's no craziness. Thinking that's just real spiritual laziness. Causing a personal life confusing haziness. Truly, our fields group in an ocean of awareness. All share their energy in perfect fairness. And I wish to live my happiest life now, so I will do my best to show us all how. Our internal peace precedes a world peace show. We can't share what's not in our own flow. When peace is within, we share what's aglow. Teaching is simple, what our hearts truly know. As every person's a real genius in their own right. We all got our own stories of pain and fright. Beyond our sad stories is an autodidact flight. Here, autotelic destinies imbue peace's plight. So we go from separation to unity, from hate to love, from war to peace, from law to vow, from incorporation to incorporation, from secret malevolent CIA communication to unconditionally open source reformation, from oppressive authoritarian dictatorships covering as democracies to a truly classless, self-governing, egalitarian commonwealth of republics, so that our social structures create a freely united society that inspires, empowers, and supports every single person to experience their most intellectually, spiritually, physically, and emotionally enlightened lives that contribute to a collective utopia. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 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 Oh yeah. So here's the highest Canadian intuition. On New Year's 2020, I received this vision. Peace is fast coming to our earthly home, and I'm a MC, the Coming World Peace Show. The Coming World Peace Show. Because I'm the happiest, most woke nervous system. I am the happiest, most woke nervous system. Laughing at this toxic, broken, dark system. My happy love effectually wakes people up. Happy love effectually wakes people up. So I love all the attention so I can get up. Oh baby. Oh baby, way up high in our human pop culture sky, high in our human pop culture sky, start toppling work that fills our minds with intuitive knowledge that utopia is nigh. All we gotta do is relax, breathe, sigh, sigh, Tune in to being an unconditional ally. An unconditional ally. Beyond thoughts into feelings we can rely. Connecting source, soul, fam, psychic ally. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Knowing infinity, we're never truly alone. Hearts beat DNA in our rhythmic divine tone. Autodidact magnets sharing ionospherically, moving us to autotelic genius telekinetically. Oh yeah. Happiness is Canada's abundance potentially. We all know truth here confidentially. Drawing love into existence sequentially, walking out this truth now confidently. So, full Winnipeg, I step high as I march to the beat of my Super Saiyan heart to know united freedom as a start. So sustainable peace can be our art. How? Vote for King Naz. Vote for King Naz. They got the pizzazz to kick government ass. Bring in love to all of us. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Please vote for real happiness. This woke plan's our highness. So aware, no need for minus. Creationist truth at our finest. Oh yeah. Let's vote for self-empowerment. In true love, there's no argument. Opening choices to own government. We all follow our internal government. Oh yeah. Communicating in love, no resentment, needs desires, boundaries, complement, our togetherness, flowing our moment, empowering us to create a monument called human peace on earth in love. Let's mind, heart, sacral march, oh yeah. Empowering us to create a monument called human peace on earth in love. Let's mind, heart, sacral march, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Awesome. That was fun. Thanks for witnessing me. So that ended at the end of 2020. I did 36 or so freedom marches and had about 50 to 60 people join me on the marches. And it was a wonderful experience. And I feel like the prayer was very effective. And it was great practice. And I had a lot of fun. And I came up with that video, which is a super fun thing. So very low quality production and my own performance in it too, can be improved, though those are just things that, got to practice and work on. And I'm doing my best while also having patience for myself. Last summer, I dreamt of hosting a freedom festival back in the summer of 2020. That summer, I helped make 3 festivals. And I know the potential in shifting people's perspectives to freedom by placing them in a space where they can be free and inspiring them for a few or many days with enlightening education and entertainment. Great idea, though I definitely did not feel able to pull it off myself at that time, and no other organizers I spoke with were interested in the project. As I witnessed the deep inner conflict in the freedom movement over the fall of 2020 and the dissonant energy within the gatherings, I pulled out of the movement publicly and focused on building my own private community. Another inspiration to pull out was that our relationship with the police force was not great, and many of us got tickets for organizing rallies. I got 2 tickets at the end of December at a caroling rally at the north side of the Legislative Building. A beautiful experience of heartfelt spiritual song turned into a melodramatic happening with one of the Church of God members being detained in a police car, tickets being issued. I came to hold space, and the police called me over and told me they identified me as Stephen L. Minion, and they are going to give me a ticket or 2, and requested that I step into their car while they write it, and I kindly requested to continue standing where I am. And so the officer left me with another officer who had beautiful blue eyes. So I stared into his eyes kindly while thinking, thank you, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, for a few moments while there's like, they're kind of like chaotic energy happening around. And ended on thanking him for his duty and for holding space for us. And I broke my eye contact and closed my eyes, and the ticketing officer came back shortly thereafter, and I thanked him. And I was very unlearned in law at the time, so I asked, what would happen if I refused to just take this ticket with me and just left it with you? And he told me it would go through the court system anyways, and the conviction would be mailed to me. So I took the ticket and went on my way and found a group of about 30 other activists who had gotten tickets, and they were all going in pleading not guilty, claiming human rights and factual laws. Well, I don't know any other way right now. Don't have a live claim. I'm not in that yet. So, all right, I'll try it this way. So I waited the 45 days till the last day I could plead, and I called in the morning, and it went straight to a voice message claiming that due to high call volumes and COVID, they are unable to take the call right now, and that I can come into the building to pay the ticket or call back to talk with a bureaucrat. So I waited an hour and called back and got the same message. I did that every hour until the last time I tried and they were closed. So I decided to try and leave a message that I have tried to use their system and plead with no avail. I just want to be witnessed. Just want to be seen. I just want to be loved. So I call 311 and ask to leave a message, and they direct me towards what they promised to be a provincial general message line. And when the call transferred and the other side welcomed me to the provincial health order snitch line, like this: if you have witnessed someone breaking the health order, please leave a message with as many details as possible, and an investigator will be in contact with you shortly. And my jaw hit the floor. And when the message beeped, I just laid into it with something like this: my name is Nazaragor Dominion, and I am absolutely horrified to be participating in a society where the general message line is a citizen's snitch line. I am here to bring awareness to all your bullshit and create new earth and unconditional love. Yeah. I have been planning on burning the tickets. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. It will happen at the right time. No tickets actually went through, ever, in this case. For anyone, as far as I've heard. Unless we choose to pay them, of course. They scare us with the idea that we won't be able to renew our driver's license until we deal with the ticket. The health order tickets are written on a Provincial Offences Act, so I'm not sure how they can claim that. I haven't heard of anyone having problems with it so far. No fear here. So it's likely just a fictional scare tactic. However, since I'm not ever going to renew my driver's license ever again, I'm never going to find out personally, so I'm looking forward to finding out if people who have tickets to just, they ignored them, you know? How's that working out, you know, for driver's licensing? This is how this system works, unfortunately, as I am quickly learning by witnessing the massive number of false scare tactics that are wholly fictional and require us to believe in it, to make it real. Schooled and advertised by our society, we are unconsciously pigeonholed into believing that we are meant to choose the few choices we are given. As I was learning in high school, I never enjoyed multiple choice answer tests and job fairs and job interest tests, and now realize that they all aid in creating a deeply closed-minded way of thinking that pigeonholes us into accepting worth from feeling free to choose from a few carefully crafted choices that we are given, and nothing more. Come the summer of 2021, and I'm in a good place here in my own little community building projects, and I'm spending time in the Sundance and sweat lodges and connecting more deeply with my Indigenous roots. I'm a 16th by birth, apparently, but we're all Indigenous, truly. And I'm connecting with my ceremonial self and feeling better about the direction of my life and the whole movement in general. At the end of July, I'm invited to speak at the rally where we ended up just having an epic long open mic. A month beforehand, I had the Freedom Festival idea triggered once again, as I came into the understanding of Indigenous ceremonies, which are like teachings, healings, and vision quests all in one. I began envisioning the merging of ceremonies with festivals in a creative New Earth way. So in the moment, as I awaited my call up to the mic, I went around and began collecting emails from bright-looking people basically saying that I am interested in gathering with others who want to envision New Earth into existence together and create private spaces to have great times in. I immediately put the intention out to find a place to host this festival and heard Bonnie Riddles is great. And so at the beginning of September, I went to a town hall at Bonnie's and experienced the kind and intense and kind of aggressive energy that exudes from the property. A little older lady named Sherry got up to the mic and said, "I want to share my property with anyone who wants to build community. Come over this Friday to see my 77 acres of land." And so I got her number and met her on her land, and it felt good. And she was open to hosting an event. And I talked about it being about 3 days and taking up quite a bit of space. And as I was sharing ideas, she was very positive. So I was very hopeful. And we began a relationship together, turning her property into a festival ground. Working steadily on her property as I began sending lots of emails, telling everyone what's going on, when and how they can help. And it was a great few weeks of flowing into creating the festival for the 25th of September. We got donations and funding enough to get materials for a stage, a big tent, electricity to the stage, a human manure composting toilet, a kids' playground, healing huts, and vendor village. And then it all kind of started coming off the rails there with scheduling and conflicting timing and so much chaos in the world and the energies, and great idea, but good luck trying to get everyone together. So scheduling of participants and teachers came up as being issues. So I rescheduled again and again, trying to get the timing right. Eventually, it just felt like too many problems arose, combined with a feeling like I'm communicating with too many people, and I'm becoming clearly aware that not everyone is actually ready for this whole sovereignty thing that I'm describing. So maybe, And then I began witnessing Sherry's difficulty in her friendships, and sometimes is talking poorly about others, and I get not so good feelings while trying to keep the peace and keep on building the festival. In my final week on the property, Sherry left for many days at the same time as I had a few friends stay a few nights to help build. I could feel some dissonance in our connection, so I offered to talk to her over the phone, though she promised that she wanted to talk when she got back to the property about boundaries and agreements, and that she was going to teach me a lesson about communication. And so I thanked her, and I was really truly looking forward to seeing her and talking it all out and communicating and being in a relationship. And about 5 days thereafter, I decided to cancel Sovereign Fest publicly and make it private with the VIP sovereigns involved only. I told a few people about my plan to reinstate privately, though Sherry was unfortunately not one of them. The next day, everything's perfect always. The next day, I was in the middle of making the private email to the smaller VIP contact group when Sherry showed up in a stoic rage, upset about everything, and ordered me off the property without conversation otherwise. This is our interaction paraphrased. "I'm taking you home now, pack up." I reply, "I don't understand, I'm still building for the festival." And she repeated herself, and I asked her to clarify. And she says, "Well, Sovereign Fest is canceled, so why are you even still here? And you've moved my things, and I have someone staying in the cabin tonight. Get out. I'll take you home." And I'm like sitting there, like receiving her really, really stressful energy. Like I'm just like doing my best to like ground it and release it. And like I'm shaking with her energy. And I attempted to peacefully offer her opportunities to talk and make it up without burning the bridge like this. And she stuck her ground. And I offered again as kindly as I could, just to, just to talk, and nope. So I wished her well and began cleaning up. I was very sad initially, and I was still feeling very like shooken, and she projected a lot of energy onto me. And so I was very consciously transmuting it all, and I came back to ecstatic happiness within about like 20 minutes. And I realized there is a much better property out there for Sovereign Fest to thrive on. Quite a few, but there's one. There is specifically one that is really like so good. I found out later that the promise that someone was supposed to stay in the cabin that night was a lie. And as I've been finding out more too, so was a lot of other details of words spoken and heard in my relationship with Sherry. The next week I came back and took apart the stage and have been reorganizing my vision for the event ever since. I've been set back a little bit here with some things, but it's all good. Everything is always perfect, and I trust that deeply, that there is never any loss, and that I am always inheriting an ever greater reality. So I found out even more details that shed unfortunate light on the situation, and without going into it, I am going to tell everyone to just caution themselves about their relations with Sherry Lane and the Hillbilly Resort. I have very strong boundaries personally because of my little, slightly traumatic, slightly enlightening experience with her. Though Sherry and I left on, regardless, we left on good terms. We left peacefully, and the day that I packed up initially and left, we hugged, and it was great. But then when I came back to clean up again the stage, it was clear that she had built up some negativity in herself. I was open to a hug, and she was not feeling so open. People got their own patterns. Can't heal everyone. I was hopeful. So I wish this to be a lesson for developing better boundaries and building more foundational relationships with humans that I really want to be creating life with. Yeah, it's also like I really need to make really good agreements for myself and know how to make agreements with others. And that's something that I was never taught, something that I'm learning. I will own my immaturity in that sense, and my unprofessionalism. I will definitely own that. So this has been a lesson in assuring that everyone I am creating with is super solid and is not going to use, hurt, or abuse me. I don't need people who just show sovereignty on the surface. I need you all to be actually dedicated to creating powerfully healthy patterns. Please and thank you. So you might have been seeing the words United Sovereigns. So who are the United Sovereigns? 808. Who are the United Sovereigns? Thank you very much for your presence here, and thank you for your presence here. Your presence here. The United Sovereigns, aka us, are an energetic collective made up of the higher selves and souls of many powerfully awakening humans across the planet, standing up for our sovereignty and learning how to lead their local communities into new earth. I and my higher self have been psychically connecting with us for the past 3 months or so. I realized I had contact with them before consciously connecting with them. I just didn't fully realize them and never asked for their name. The beings are also connected. The beings also connected to us are powerfully awakening to sovereignty in similarly visionary ways of experiencing new earth within our inner vision. The transmissions and conversations with all of them sounds like a harmonic choir of many people singing a unified message into the center of my inner ears. Sometimes, when they are all resonating in harmony, the transmission comes through as one clear message or vision that is ecstatically joyful and rich. Sometimes, when we're collectively chaotic, I receive many similar visions and messages, challenges, or conflicts all at once in kind of a quagmire. In the past 5.5 years of spiritual awakening, I have connected with many energetic entities that are beyond the normally accepted sensual experience and can clearly state that this connection has provided me the most grounded visions that are uniquely tuned to my mission. When I connect with the human collective and Mama Earth, I receive a general radiance of love, care, and deep healing of ancient wounds that feels like a quiet, peaceful without any direct guidance. When I connect with singular entities or ascended masters, I receive a direct feeling of attention with an intention and guidance, and I would be able to choose how to interact with them directly. When I connect with my higher self, we meet in a sanctuary where we relate intimately and are building King Naz together and tuning each other into the best ways. When I connect with us, I receive rich intelligence about elite agendas and how it applies to my locale, inspiration on how to interact with local freedom movements, and guidance on ways forward to plan and build new earth outside of the cities, eventually overtaking the cities with peace, love, and harmony after the major event that unifies all of our timelines. So for your express information, when I refer to us in capital letters, I am channeling through a body of energy that is much larger than just my little perception. The more openly we share our awareness with our inner world, the clearer, more holistic picture we receive from a larger context of reality. So I am here to support you connecting with your own higher self, us, and whatever guides are powerful for you now in this moment of your own awakening. Blessed be that you are connected to what is perfect for you. Being able to connect safely with spirit guides is an integral part of spiritual sovereignty. Vision time! Oh yeah! All right, realizations and visions for the true Svrn Fest. Initially, when I envisioned the festival in 2020, it was in a public place and it was very casual and basically free or close to it. Basically, an all-day rally in a public park with intentionally scheduled acts, workshops, and sessions with vendors and activist leaders and communal culture and a generally uplifting experience. This year, when I initially re-experienced the festival vision, it was in a safe and cozy private space, and it was a few days of educational workshops, inspiring services, and enlightening experiences that would have us envisioning New Earth together. As I connected with Sherry and her land, she requested the festival be only one day, and so I began compacting the structure of the schedule into a tighter and tighter format, which allowed many realizations that sovereignty is experienced in many realms of our awareness, and there is an order to ascending into being able to claim our legal sovereignty as men and women on the land within God's jurisdiction. So when we're limited, our creativity comes out and we channel with the focus point. I was excited to present a jam-packed day to attendees, though I was concerned that it would be a lot to take in all in one day. Though I was confident that I would be able to perform and make a super fun day of inspiring sovereignty into our beautiful little collective while also building community and learning how to create together. As I am coming to realize, this is a long journey into a very different world that requires instantaneously miraculous vision to participate in. And we cannot expect this vision to be experienced clearly for all of us in just one day or 3 days or a week or even a year. Though the more of us that come together with this miraculous vision in miraculous spaces, the more powerfully and quickly we can awaken the world. That being said, I have envisioned Svrn Fest being many things. I'm seeing this as the event arm of the body of our sovereign culture. There's socials, services, festivals, retreats, and whatever our imagination can come up with. For now, as I ground the larger events, smaller events will be regularly presented in an attempt to get our culture flowing towards sustainable community. Hence, I have planned a regular schedule throughout the winter for Svrn Social on Thursday evenings, where it is a place to connect, socialize, and plan together. And Svrn Service on Sunday mornings is a place to worship our natural sovereignty and ascend together, vibrate together, intend together, envision together. I don't know exactly what it's going to turn into, but I'm excited to play and experiment. The first larger event I feel we need is a retreat. With all the intensity of unfortunately challenging changes taking place in our city lives, we are really needing a retreat from the insanity so we may go beyond the mainstream fad of craziness and insanity and into super sanity. Svrn Retreat mirrors Svrn Fest in that they are both conscious of the process of awakening through all levels of consciousness, spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, and legal, though the retreat is relaxing into peace while the festival is invigorating into empowerment, as our sovereign culture is naturally and creatively both peacefully empowering. So let's retreat. I have my eye on a resort that could host about 12 people comfortably for a long weekend of sovereign awakening. Thank you for supporting the process of this United Sovereign New Earth event culture creation. There's a lot of organizations in this area already doing so many great things, and I trust my imagination of influential, sustainable sovereign culture just outside the mainstream that we are going to have a sovereign village and sovereign villages and sovereign communities. It's going to be super fun to live in all over the place. So we just need to be relaxed, free from any fear, and in our peaceful power to be able to manifest this together. We can do this. I know we can. Oh, yeah. Winnipeg, one great experimental city. Oh, yeah. From the beginning of Canada, Winnipeg has been a very important cultural hub. Naturally, the Forks has been an attraction point for meeting and trading simply by its nature of three rivers going different directions, meeting at the center of what is now Winnipeg. The Hudson's Bay Company incorporated in 1670 and took sole corporate ownership of a great portion of the lands of northern Turtle Island. The ownership of the lands were fumbled between royals and elites over the coming centuries, between Prince Rupert, the HBC, Queen Elizabeth, and Canada Corp. And now Canada is basically open for international business gangsters to use and abuse as they please, as Canada writes legal contracts with giant corporations that indemnify them of any harms caused to the environment and the people, as well as so many offshore companies using slave labor for massive wealth creation. While onshore, we are here mining, deforesting, polluting, monoculturally, chemically, genetically, agriculturally modifying our bodies and our environment into a state of mass disease. There was a good reason for a massive uprising against the colonizers with a general strike in 1921. And just like most sovereign countries, in 1933, we're indebted to the Federal Reserve and the fiat currency world banking birth certificate debt enslavement system. In 1951, the United States got permission from Canada to use Manitoba and specifically Winnipeg for an experimental aerial spraying program over the course of 2 summer months. In 1952, Manitoba was the center of a polio epidemic that severely injured over 100 children and likely harmed many people in ways not obviously perceivable. Toxic pollution is real, and it needs to end, and will surely end naturally in the timeline unification. All it requires is our witnessing of it. In 1997, the Winnipeg Level 4 Microbiology Lab finished its construction, and in 1998, coronavirus was patented, and in 1999, the mRNA vaccine for it was also patented. Coincidence? Many Chinese scientists were fired, deported, and put under investigation by the RCMP, and that was on the news in a neutral manner at the beginning of 2020, early on in the pandemic. And then our tightly controlled mainstream news stories here now playing cover-ups to allege false claims that there's no correlation between COVID and this, in an attempt to dissuade people of knowing the single truth: the government is directly colluding with worldwide drug and bioweapons cartels to create this New World Order Great Reset event, while making the truth they really don't want you to see obviously covered up with their philanthropic surface layer intentions. In the years after 9/11, special ops forces were using downtown Winnipeg for war experiments in public spaces as they were playing tactical battle practice games in the Exchange District. This activity alerted an activist by the name of Kristen Andrews, who is now a good friend. And back then she started the Flaming Trolley Circus Band to bring light to the atrocious behavior playing out in our city. I appreciate the way they make light of the issues in their songs that regularly have over 12 instruments playing along as they march along and dance together. I was sad, though, to see how inactive they have been since 2020. I actually met them at the Ledge for one Winnipeg Freedom March. I just happened upon them and shared my inspiration, and not many of them actually aligned with it. They were sleeping. And before I ever awoke to anything deep, the knowing that Winnipeg is an experimental city was like a whispered truth that held no weight. The story is that businesses and chains often try new marketing campaigns, products, and different business tactics because Winnipeggers are cheap and not an easy sell. So if it sells in Winnipeg, it'll sell everywhere. Then I woke to just how experimental this region is and can feel the elite presence and know their grasp is deep and power is vast here. And am praying for us all to awaken to the new earth experiment of peace, love, and harmony. We can experiment with creative new ways of governing ourselves from a foundation of self-responsibility within a collectively blessed realization of unity with all forever. The experimental city of Winnipeg and other cities in Canada have perimeters, making them perfect candidates for securing safe spaces. Whether that be a love for freedom or fearful control is up to the mass of us within the perimeter to decide. It has become evident from driving around the perimeter that they have been working hard at closing off service roads out of the city limits. The perimeter makes for a perfect ability to make a gated city that implements the health pass throughout. Our own mayor is pushing the propaganda heavy and supporting harsh repercussions against those who don't follow along. Local media shares divisive perspectives and obviously supports the agenda. Local radio stations constantly advertise propaganda of the day and host government representatives to answer questions that assure everyone is feeling good about their acceptance of this reality. Virgin Radio on Monday is going to host Joss Reimer to advertise the children need to get their vaccines. Dropping into prayer for miracles. The majority of persons out there in all departments are numbly following along. It is nice to see a lot of men and women stand up and come together within intensely governed spaces such as police stations, hospitals, care homes, fire departments, government departments, and the like. And they're joining together, and it's so good. And this Saturday, we're gonna see it. It's also awesome to see many of them leaving their positions. New Earth needs everyone. Though I have strong feelings there's not enough of them at this time, and their positions will and can be filled quickly with foreign nationals. Thanks to Justin's immigration policies, we have a steady inflow of migrant workers willing to work for less to fill the emptying spaces. So I see ways that they can just keep their system afloat by instituting less qualified people in hospitals, just like they did with the health bylaw cops, turning security guards and tough guys into rule enforcers and ticket writers. Imagine anyone with a nursing or health-related background, or even just a lowly qualified needle pusher, being given the ability to utilize the simple tools of death provided by the medical system. The training needed to give vaccines and gene therapies is nominal, so why would we expect anything else? We are already seeing the injuries come to light, and we will continue to see this and see it be covered up brutally. And the blatant censorship of this trauma is leading to a massive expression of generational repression in an ugly manner within these highly controlled spaces that have been brainwashed and demoralized for years into confusion. Now, the longer people wait to awaken, the harder it will be to ascend energetically enough to unify with the United Sovereign Bliss timeline. Their agenda pushes our agenda. We thank their agenda for pushing our agenda. I would not be here doing this now, connecting with anything like this, if it was not for all of this. We would not be connecting here now. Thank you. Being in public in Winnipeg, I can feel people's repression, and I can feel the intensity of times coming for them. The dark night of people who are currently touting that everyone needs to get this poisonous thing is something I don't need to be a direct part of at all. Even people who are just confused and just kind of repeating the narrative to justify their actions. I don't want to hear that cognitive dissonance unless it's in a space I control and can mutate that awful energy of dissonant disempowerment into love. I wish to inspire the world from a very safe place that is dedicated to those of us on the bright side of the energetic fires that is the dark night of the soul. If we have yet to truly dark night or have a Kundalini awakening, we are committed to attain the ability to go through that epic time of personal transformation into spiritual presence with a grace and conscious awareness enough to remember this is a beautiful collective evolution of human consciousness, and sometimes burning away old patterns stings for a time as we heal. It's common that this experience to be perceived as mental illness. The dark night of the soul can be so intense and it can be misperceived. And it can be put into really awful places of perception. And that is the next wave for the mainstream. If they don't go permanently off the face of this reality, they will all eventually realize that because they have accepted this narrative that plants cognitive dissonance very deeply into themselves, and it is poisoning their minds and bodies and emotions and spirits, and they will be talking about their mental illnesses, and that everyone's got it, and everyone is going to realize what is going on. So, how deep are they going to go? That's the question. Depression is a tough situation without genuinely divine support and community support and family support. Currently, the medical system support is assured permanence and worsening of current conditions. Those people faithful to the system will all likely be led to having some kind of symptom of Kovacs syndrome. And that healing is not going to be pretty. And I want to deal with it directly in prayer. And that's my boundary. Regardless of the chaos leading to our New Earth timeline unification, after the Great Reset event, we will all be cleared of our history and wrongdoing and reset to New Earth. Right now, we're just practicing and preparing for the great change that is quickly coming. I see the elite agenda timeline as the financial crash happening late in the spring of 2022. And within months of a bit of chaos from the collapse, there will be a new digital identification system implemented, and everyone who wants to have any rights inside the New World Order jurisdiction will need to follow along closely, or else they will have all their rights and abilities revoked. Their life data will be closely monitored, and they will be granted points on social credit systems to monitor their socially governed health. By that time, a lot of people will choose to opt out, and we'll have a much larger community. Though a lot more people will choose to opt out if there are already communities and networks of living beings providing safe spaces to trade and make a life outside of the atrocious New World Order system. So by next fall, if we have a community set up, there's going to be people naturally. And so we have to have systems in place to accept these people. We have to have strong boundaries and constitutions already at that point. And the ability to say no, and the ability to say, hey, we have this other community over here that you can awaken more in, and then you can come visit our community. Because this community is powerful, and I want to create boundaries that keep it being powerful. And I'm not exactly sure how to do that yet, but I've been witnessing many community building projects, and I'm realizing that boundaries are very important. And the reason why secret societies and the elite families are so powerful is because of the operations of their internal structures and how they work together, and they really work together, and they are really in trust together and acting together. Unfortunately, it seems to me right now that not too many of us are taking or making any real actions. This is not for you on the call. I know that we're all doing our best here. I'm looking forward to talking about what we're doing and preparing in the right ways to resolve this massive issue. We're not doing it en masse yet. The solution dedicated beings are rare, and I am appreciative to feel connected to many of them, to be on the call with you, and feel that we are creating a beautiful network of grassroots awakening. We, the powerfully awakening ones, are rare, and the sleeping are common. I cannot currently see us having a crowd big enough to influence the whole city from the outset of the New World Order digital ID agenda to stop this from happening here in a lot of different ways that are going to be difficult to watch. We need to witness it from very safe spaces. It's naturally going to be disempowering to witness. There will be perspectives that will help to witness it and to stay grounded, but it's not something that I want to participate in or witness in any way. We already know how bad it feels to be witnessing this amount of insanity, never mind a social credit system. Therefore, if we don't wish to be burdened with witnessing it, we need to be careful how much energy we put into the process of trying to awaken those slumbering in deep sleep in it. Please only help others upon request, and only for those who are drowsy. I was hopeful at the outset of all this that we would all open our eyes faster, and look at how obvious it is. Though it is clear, I feel like the majority of docile Winnipeggers are deeply asleep and need to take a few icky, tricky, sticky steps into the sickness of the New World disorder to awaken to the fact that they have a choice to participate in that paradigm or not. I relate it to an alcoholic's rock bottom. They just need to go there, Otherwise, they'll just keep on drinking the Kool-Aid. We are all awakening in our own unique ways. So thank you for witnessing my own awakening, and thank you for allowing me to witness yours. Being a part of the activist movement from the beginning of 2020, I have witnessed the movement grow safely here. From upset confusion and anger to peace, love, and sovereign power. The Svrn movement in Manitoba is private, peaceful, low-key, grassroots, and feels great as it's steadily gaining power in a sustainable fashion as we continue deepening our intimate relationships and moving towards super consciously grounded, self-realized cultures in a safe, slow, and truly confident manner. We choose here and now to make our private getaway out of this dissonant jurisdiction that is attempting to use propagandized narratives, furthering agendas to coop entire populations of humanity into a centralized control system of total enslavement. Whether we be conscious or unconscious of all the choices, we are all choosing everything we are experiencing always. I choose sovereignty. My vision is real. My imagination is real. I see peace here now. I feel peace here now. I imagine Winnipeg as one big, peaceful, joyful, abundant city that is cooperative, communal, ceremonial, festive, and like a retreat to live in, and working towards inspiring the world into new earth ways of cooperatively building our world together in naturally creative, beautiful, awesome, fantastic, fun ways. Yeah! The people in my imagination are in a wholly different state of consciousness as their beingness radiates brightly and the environment around them is divinely created. We have come back to building and living in temples and sacred spaces, honoring the sun, the moon, and the cycles of the earth, together loving one another and all into our most inspirational, evolving state of awareness. Manitoba is a perfect place for this to happen. All the infrastructure and all the people are already here. All we need to do is imagine us into an organized and aligned network of new earth creation, which requires everything we can imagine that we need in life. Now, in new earth, our imagination is responsible for all that we are creating in every dimension, all we are perceiving in our present awareness, all we are channeling through thinking, and all energies we are connecting with. Everything is sourced from and created by our imagination. If there are any doubts in your mind about that right now, everything is sourced and created from our imagination. Everything is sourced and created from our imagination. If there are any doubts in your mind right now, please do be kind with yourself on your healing journey. Here, have some love and light to clear your mind screen. Our imagination, my friends, my dear sovereign fans, is the lens through which the light of source consciousness flows through the filter of our body's auric field and bioelectromagnetism, making our reality. Truly, we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. More truly, we are light beings experiencing infinitely dimensional realities through the imaginative lens of our shared collective new earth awareness, intertwined with my own personal filter of awareness and your personal filter of awareness. We are connected, and we affect other humans and all beings and everything more than we can currently comprehend. The more powerfully we individually and collectively remember and experience this, the quicker new earth happens outside of our body and mind and in ever greater ways. You just need to believe and trust our imagination into existence. So why is Manitoba the perfect host for world peace? Manitoba means Great Spirit in Cree. Winnipeg is the geographic center of the North American continent. We are the heart of the continent. We are the seat of the Creator. There's enough people here to do something really great, and that would make a big wave across the world. Though it's not so big that it would be challenging to wave all the people into a unified awareness here. Not too big, not too small, it's just right. Around Winnipeg, we have tons of space and great environments that are interspersed with small townships. I love the population density here. Plus, I love that there are many empty towns and much empty infrastructure that can be utilized to build Earth anew right away. When I first woke up spiritually 5 years ago, a vision came through that the poles shifting, magnetic poles shifting, is going to cause a lot of environmental chaos and worldwide earthquakes. The vision showed me that because Manitoba is basically a giant swamp, it acts as a filter for both physical contaminants and for vibrational pollution as well. We live on a geological shock absorber. At one time, many eons ago, when this place was Lake Agassiz, it was well underwater. Luckily now, we are far enough above sea level for that not to happen anytime again soon. Though there are many places around the globe that may not be so blessed in the coming times here. People's fears and visions about the rising tide on coastal cities may just manifest that. A vision came through 5 months ago that showed there are many ghost towns and towns that have a lot of potential to be turned into sovereign villages, and a richness of creativity imbued my vision since. I imagined a 100-kilometer circle of townships around Winnipeg that surrounded it like a hug, and we're all connected and would have events like Folklorama, where each town shares their uniquely blooming culture and the fruits of their artisan labor, celebrating each other's creations and sharing in the abundance of our superconsciously imaginative creativity. And we travel around from each town to each town and spend a day, and it's just like a whole super conscious cultural happening. We surround the city like a hug and influence it into peace on earth. From this hug, we also connect with reserves and support the healing of their village culture to become retreats and resorts for natural healing and spiritual ceremony. The vision was clear that reserves would be the most deeply healing places. The vision showed that the deeper the wounds we heal, the more potential we have in our healing abilities, so long as we don't self-destruct in the process of healing. Reserves have been so deeply traumatized that as they get back to the level of empowerment where they can confidently share the healing gifts in their indigenous imagination, they will be very powerful wounded healers. Very powerful. The New Earth indigenous culture is so cool. They adopt old and new into one expression of creator spirit coming through to be living a good life together in a creative new way. Due to the great learning I'm doing in the legal realm of my imagination, visions are coming through showing how sovereign New Earth is connected with creative play in experimentation with all aspects of how we commune, though the foundational constitutions that guide the way of our lives will be collectively agreed upon. I imagine every person being a sovereign, self-governing human who knows and owns their very own private trust and constitution, which is attached to their life mission and purpose. These self-realized, responsible, and deeply trustworthy beings congregate in tight-knit groups that work together to create cooperative trusts in the private that operate like families. Sovereign communities attract a conglomeration of these cooperative trusts to create ever greater cooperative trusts that build communal constitutions that guide the relationships between the trusts and inspire the ascension and evolution of the collective community into a state of ecstatically creative being. These communities would naturally own their land privately with allodial titles and be inspirators of empowering land users to become the authorized owners of the property they used to live. They have spent so much energy scooping up all the lands and putting them out to sea. It is time that we take the land back legally. There's quite a few ways to do this, though some really solid methods are coming into my field of awareness more and more now. And I'm really looking forward to some upcoming understandings that are just on the tip of my mind right now. And it's such an exciting time of learning. There's an infinite number of ways world peace expresses itself, and an infinity of ways to perceive what world peace is. Ultimately, when we are there living it out, we won't need the constitutions, as our psychic connections will provide the natural communication needed to bring simple, compresent understandings to complex and rich imaginations. The most powerful way to live as humans on Earth is infinitely imaginative and connected to God Creator Source. Infinitely imaginative means our minds are fully open to our own mind. We know ourselves as the creators of our experience And as our level of superconscious awareness expands, our knowledge on how to imagine this reality into existence becomes ever more obvious. Connected to God, Creator Source, means our minds are fully open to our universal mind. We know ourselves to be one stitch of human thread in the vast creation of all that is manifest. And as our level of superconscious awareness ascends, our knowledge on how to connect with God, Creator Source, and all that is through the unmanifest realm of potential creation comes alive. From that highly grounded foundation, human life naturally connects with the divine flow of universal evolution that is meant for us to claim and to be. How do we ground this united sovereign vision? We're almost there, my friends. We're almost there. At the end. This is the last page. Thank you so much for your patience and presence, your love, your support. To ground such a potent and powerful vision, we need quite a few humans to be truly in their own power center, within their own being, connected directly to Source and consciously creating their existence. Some collective visions express 144,000. Others say it will never happen, and others say we only need 12 of us. I believe that all are true. I don't believe everyone is meant to step into New Earth. In fact, it's becoming ever more obvious that within 7 years, the population and landscape of the planet is going to be very different. And I believe that some of us are meant to do more work than others. And that will also become evident. The exact details of the happenings are unimportant because we can trust that Manitoba here is a very safe place to ground in. Basically, the vision of the poles shifting led to the understanding that when we lose our ionosphere for a short time because the temporary magnetic pole misalignment, it will naturally be a very energetically intense time. All the radiation of the sun and the universe is going to be allowed into our atmosphere and could ionize the air as well as directly penetrate our auric fields and bodies. I imagine that people who have very strong minds and nervous systems and are energetically conscious will actually be enlivened by this event. However, those who are not so strong will perish. Our memories are, regardless of what you believe right now, our memories are held in our auric field. And when our auric field gets wiped, we lose our memory. The zombie apocalypse fantasy is a real potential for a short time for those people who are still alive and sleeping and have their memory wiped. Zombie. There are ways to build spaces biologically so that everyone can be safe regardless of their energy level. There's a reason that the Freemasons put copper on their ceilings. So how do we ground it? Basically, a sovereign human makes a sovereign event that attracts other sovereigns, that they make sovereign pods, that they come together and make more sovereign events, more powerful sovereign events, and they make sovereign villages, and then they make sovereign cities, and then they make sovereign worlds. Simply put, okay, sovereignty. Inside out process. The basic process to bring the United Sovereign Vision into existence is for sovereign humans to really become free. Really within themselves and come together with other powerful sovereigns to create a culture of events and have really sovereign, okay? Or like really sovereign, right? Really super duper sovereign. Some of which of these sovereign events that are going to help us to be more sovereign are Sovereign Fest, retreats, socials, and United Sovereign Spirit Services. Please feel free to join me at the first service this Halloween as we use the powerful portals open at this time to let go of our stanky shit and inherit the unconditional love that is our birthright so that we can envision an awesome life into existence together. Once we are flowing in events, there will be natural connections formed within the group that will be intentionally manifested as pods of 8 to 12 people working together to create an intimate trust that works towards specific goals. Currently, there are many collective sovereignty projects in the works that have resources potentially coming together, and they're making groups and think tanks and whatnot, and it's really great to see. It's honestly, there's so much going on. It's hard to even keep up with it all. It's great, but it's also like, holy moly, it's a lot. It may be advantageous for those of us who are like-minded to group together into a unit that works towards a common vision and a common expression, and insert ourselves into one or two of these bigger, more public projects under a cool Elias brand name, like United Sovereigns or something like that, or Manitoba Sovereigns, or I don't know. Choosing the right partners in this initial venture will be key, and keeping our boundaries solid will be of utmost importance to attract the best people who are able to really commit their entire being honestly and dedicatedly into our field of creative ascension. The next step, once we have solid pods, is to manifest land around 100 to 200 kilometers around Winnipeg, and take back the land in private cooperative communities that work together with all sovereigns to make networks of cooperative states that aid in the sharing, trading, and socializing of the culture, inspiring the indigenous reserves to be retreats, inspiring the cities to be technologically advanced places to experimentally innovate a sustainable new earth, and inspiring the entire world to experiment with world peace. Here we are, coming together in ever greater ways, leading to simply grand living situations, communing and cooperating in God's jurisdiction. Thank you very much. That completes this section of our evening that took a little bit longer than I thought it was. But not too much. So feel free to come on and unmute yourself and say hello.
Holly's here and Marty.
Hello.
Hey, Marty and Holly.
We're turning our video.
I love to share that I was crying and laughing and smiling through that video. I'm happy that you have shared that now.
Yeah.
The quality is spot on because it's real. Like it's real. It's reality. And then in your story,
I honestly, when I was doing it, I felt the deep sense of silliness, like in myself. Like, as I was going through that, I was like, wow, this is really crazy. And many moments, you know, there was people passing by and watching me, and I could definitely feel like they're like, whoa, you know.
But
and
it's
there
like
was even people who interacted with me and like, are you in drugs? And there was one woman who came up to me in the circle, and she was like, are you on meth? And I was like, no, man, I'm on love. I'm on happiness. And
that's what the indigenous trickster and there's another word for it, but there's a few ways, and one of the ways is to be like authentically like silly, but you're actually being very truthful in that, and like the kid part of, and also just the kid, the innocence, like it's untouchable. And then if you're hearing what you're saying when you're dancing around and laughing like that, then that really hits home. Like they opened up because it's like, wow, that's weird, and I'm curious, and then they'll probably listen, and then their doors are open, the message is entered, and they'll never forget. And I just want to say one more thing, that when you're sharing this story, I really thank you for mentioning me, because like I feel like I've witnessed you through this time, but it goes back to even like us sitting on your auntie's couch in her basement and discovering the word "come present."
Yeah, totally.
Like, what? Whoa! And then looking it up and how perfectly that fits. The
And
journey has
you were
been
working
back.
on your love book, and that inspired me. I'm like, I was working on some, some self-authoring and authoring my work, and it's hard to, if you've never seen yourself as an author, it's hard to see yourself as an author. So it's really great to have the inspiration of someone who's just like, yeah, I'm publishing this book, like it's nothing.
And we're
Really
perpetually inspiring each other, and that's what this group is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who these people are, but we all inspiring each other, and then it will just grow and grow and grow and grow and grow.
Yeah, and you're a huge inspiration to me, Nazaire. Like, honestly, I feel so empowered around you. I just like feel like, I don't know, like my life is coming together when I'm in your presence. So thank you so much for just being so awesome and being authentically you, and just channeling your higher self and inspiring the community around you. You know, it's so great. Like, it's just so awesome. And I also want to mention about, because you're talking about like, people thinking you're on drugs and you're just dancing all silly and stuff. And I've kind of got that too. Like, one time I was just dancing at Sean Zimmer's place, and just doing my thing. I was like, it was like the first time in public I was able to like really just like let the facade down and just sort of like do my thing. And Mike was there, and one lady was talking to me. He's like, I'm pretty sure that guy's like on drugs and stuff. And he's like, no, actually, I think he's the most sober person here. It's like, I'm like the most ridiculously sober person I know. And it's like, but at the same time, and when you're just high on life, you can just get that ecstatic energy. It's just like, yeah, it feels like drugs. Like that, like, because I remember like doing mushrooms and alcohol and cannabis, and like you just like get to the state where like the veil between space-time and consciousness is like thinned, and then you're in there in the moment with music. And like now I'm reaching a point where I can kind of get there just sober, just like get to that place, and it's just like, it's so good, just be like, just consciously awake and stuff. But yeah, you're awesome. So thank you for all your inspiration,
Marty. And you inspire me by appreciating me in that way. And so as you were talking about being inspired by me, I was inspired, and I had a vision of just like the community building project, and just spending more time around each other. And naturally, as we spend more time around each other, we will, especially with the intentions that I'm holding, we're holding, and New Earth holds, is that we will be vibing each other into inspired states of being together, and we're going to support each other's creative expression. And oh man, yeah, it's a really delicious vision. And it's like I have this great knowing within me that I want to empower that by just being in sovereign communal spaces. And once I get into those sovereign communal spaces and start to inspire others, and just like, so that we can all be on the same page of like speaking the similar message, it's going to happen so quickly. But it's like the jumping off point of like getting to that place where we are sustainably flowing in these higher visions. It's a big step to take. It's like it was like when I first started Freedom March, the first couple of times people showed up, and they wouldn't even let me talk, because they were so caught up in their own attachments, and they were so caught up in their own upset, that they could only express their upset, and they could only express conflict. They could not, like, they had zero capacity to not express conflict. I would like try to prod a little bit into solution, or like a different way of anything, but it was like, no. I was like, okay, wow, we got a lot of work to do, but at least we're coming out. And yeah, we still have I can still see a gap that we have to bridge, but I feel like over the course of this winter, the forest fires on this side of the bridge here, or this side of the river, are going to be a great inspiration to push us to make the bridge to get to the other side. Yeah, I trust that. Hey, Sohail. Hey, Lisa.
Hey.
Hey, Heather. Hey, Trisha. Oh, I see a chat message, Marty. I was muted.
Oh, that was at the very beginning. I guess
Okay,
because
great.
when you come in muted, so for a little while there, like before 7 o'clock,
Oh, well,
like where you're doing the whole meditation thing or whatever.
it was really great that the connection to one of my internet sources cut out at like 7 o'clock, and that was a perfectly natural time for me to like pick it up again on the other network. That is so one at any one time in our house, one of the networks is just like has less bandwidth, so it's less sustainable or less safe.
I usually switch when that happens.
Switch, right? Yeah. So Hale lives at the Castle Furbeast with me, and so Hale has witnessed the community building process that we've gone through here at Castle Furbeast, and coming together, and we're doing better than we ever have before, and it's great to witness this process of really intimate community building, and to come into a space where people weren't really like fully intentional about community living, and we're a little bit reticent about my intentions, and I found ways of sharing, and after a year, even people who are not intentionally like super community oriented are speaking the language of community and are in harmonious relationship with one another because of what I've done, like because of, I mean, I want to be humble at the same time, but also know my power and claim that too. And it was all of us,
I mean,
of course.
like quality communities happen when like the overflow is shared, and also like you can like lean back onto community, right?
And you can lean back on leaders of community too, because we're coming out of a culture that is not community. So we have patterns that are not community based or not community oriented, not good for community. So if one of the people within the community commits themselves to be that community base or that community foundation, then yeah, when other people are slipping or whatever, there's a pillar to rely on. And I'm working my way into being a pillar for many. And that's something that is very intentional. It's been building within me for a long time, and I'm just learning how to ground it, just learning how to come into that power. So I appreciate your presence and supporting me come into that power, because this is how it works. Like I share energy and you share energy, and then we just like make this cycle of sharing energy, and it's it's a flow.
I also wanted to share that when you were talking about your vision at the beginning of 2020 and stuff, like I was just tingly, like imagining you having that experience and just being like implicitly truth of it, like yes, you had a true vision, and it's just like like that feeling when you like hear like times when I'm reading the Bible, like in body, like yes, that person who wrote that was a prophet who was this true vision of the future, whatever. I just felt that talking, and also like because I mean, certainly not a thing, but it has.
You're breaking up a little bit, Marty.
Oh, sorry. Just saying that your visions have great coherence to my own, and so even though they're different, there's like a sort of overlap where it's like, oh, they fit together. It's like makes sense to me.
And that's that kind of coherence is what we're going to be focusing on for, well, always, but especially for this first little bit. I have a piece, you have a piece, so Hale has a piece, Heather has a piece, Lisa has a piece, Trisha has a piece, Holly has a piece, and we all just got to bring our piece together and say, hey, how do we make this pie? And we might actually have a whole pie on our own, but we'd be like, okay, well, this is like, I know that from this whole pie, I have this gem of a piece, like this piece right here. This is the one that I'm like, on. So yeah, I have a lot, like there's a lot more going on in me than what I'm able to express here. And that vision from 2020 is just like, I inherited it at that time, but it's just continually developing and continually enriching and getting deeper. And so even the way that I expressed it, I guess I wrote that yesterday. The way that I wrote that yesterday would have been different than when I initially experienced it, right? But it's hard. Like I didn't write it down and right away. So it's okay, because it's just gonna, like, I've written down visions after I've had them, and that's a really great thing to do. But when you start to have so many visions, it's like, why not just like inherit the last vision and build on it, and then imagine that and continually imagine that, and that's how we bring reality into existence. And when I started imagining this into existence, I felt silly, just like I felt like when I was doing the dancing and everything. Felt really silly. I'm like, wow, this paradigm is like, it feels so far away. But then I just like, I let that feeling go, and I'm just like, remember it again and feel it, and assure myself that it is coming. And deeply, I get deep into that.
When you're talking about peace, and we all have our pieces, that's a vision that I've had at some point, that like we are all actually like puzzle pieces.
I was gonna say that. That's the metaphor I prefer.
And then like we're not connected. It's not like a complete picture. And we're not a global beauty right now. And like imagine that 7 billion piece puzzle. What kind of masterpiece that would be?
Yes.
What would it look like?
Good night, Trisha.
I'd say the natural phenomena that we observe and take for how the world works is the imagination of the 7 billion generators, or like perceivers.
And how many of those 7 billion perceivers are on the are in the puzzle, you know?
That's interesting. It's as if they're like possibly soul clusters that manifest in a form of body, but also like a lot of generalization pitfalls. It's like there are psychic soul clusters, physiological soul clusters.
You may have missed the point where we were talking, well, I was talking about pods and cells. So the concept of the freedom cell came to me through a fellow activist, Kevin Kozakowicz, who was also the person who inspired the festival, actually, because he put on an event that felt very much like a festival. And I was like, oh, of course. And he told me about freedom cells, and freedom cells, if you go to freedomcells.org, you can look it all up and find out about their thing. But it's basically 8 people in a group is the ultimate number for a cohesive working intimate group. And so from that 8 person cell, they can one cell can interact with other cells. The idea of 8 is it's just enough people to do something with, and to like create with, and to have like a community feeling with, but it's not so large that you lose the ability to just naturally trust them. And so it's a good balance between, I was like 8, 12, you know, it depends on the people and the space and a lot of other factors. It could be upwards of 36, you know, but it's just, it really depends on the parameters. So yeah. Basically, sorry to that was just the ramp up here. So the pod idea is that it would be amazing if we got the soul pairs together, or like the soul groups together in that would be so good. So the idea is that we have these mini pods that interact with larger pods and larger pods, and that, you know, everything is just kind of like a circle inside of a circle inside of a circle. And so we just have to make a harmonious system like that. So freedom cells or sovereign pods could be a model with which we relate together, so that we can create private trusts and create intimate groups that work really well together.
That's like the alternative family.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. Coming back to the family unit, which we've had for centuries and do need. it's so important, and have been intentionally broken. And yeah, now here we are. We're like, oh, hey, we need families, and we are coming together as families. But now it's the soul families, which is even more powerful. So it's like, yeah, this great awakening. Woo!